Hi, this is Hot Girls Build Cults, the show where we explore the art of gathering, the business of belonging, and the people creating communities worth showing up for. I'm your host, Megan Lycan, storyteller, community builder, and lifelong people connector. Each week, we talk to the people creating movements, spaces, and communities that make you say, I want in. And guess what? You're invited. Let's get into it. Today, I'm sitting down with Kaylan Sliney, the CEO and co-founder of MAGENETIQ, the experience layer for cult brands. She builds at the intersection of culture, consumer behavior, and technology with a focus on co-creation and emotional loyalty. A former corporate lawyer turned founder, she's known as the unsubscribe queen for calling out noisy, distractive marketing and for building systems that replace attention with belonging. Welcome, Kaylan.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here today, Megan.
I'm so excited to sit down and talk to you as well. I guess just like a little bit of context for our audience. I met Kaylan recently through the magic of LinkedIn networking, and we bonded over our love for cuss words and cult building. Would you describe that as accurate?
I would say that's completely accurate. And in fact, not in frame, but there is a giant cuss word on the back of my office wall. So just for good measure, it's there in spirit.
For those who are unaware, and I promote a little bit. We won't be cussing the whole time, but one of our taglines for our brands is fuck funnels build a cult, and it felt very in line with hot girls build cults. So again, welcome. I think like a
Thank
really
you.
great place to start is just tell us a little bit about MAGENETIQ and what you're building.
Sure. Sure. So MAGENETIQ, as you already read off, is the experience layer for cult brands. We are an all-in-one digital clubhouse, if you will, where brands can bring their top fans and engage with them on a meaningful basis. If you think about the current channels of communication and marketing, we're often shouting into a void. Brands are trying to cut through the algorithms on socials. They are begging to be noticed in your inbox. They are trying to ploy you to a survey monkey or a form to fill out for feedback, to come to their Shopify storefront to purchase, go to their website for recipe blogs. I mean, it's all so disconnected. And the consumer journey has become ever more holistic. We're not buying based on the 4 Ps and a sort of decisive calculation about what's the best bang for my buck. We buy emotionally. And in order to build the emotional bond or emotional loyalty between brands and consumers, you need to be interacting in what I would call a multidimensional or a multimodal journey, where you've got this back and forth. It's not just shouting into a void or using a megaphone to yell to people to buy more. You are inviting them in to become part of your process, become part of your consumer board of directors. And instead of guessing and checking what they might want and evaluating your performance, you can just skip straight to asking them and understanding what they want. And as I said, letting them be part of the process is a really big initiative of ours. And the tooling all within MAGENETIQ supports all of these different types of activations in one place. So not only do you get the bond building aspect of it, you also on the back end get really clear insights, data, analytics that tell you exactly what's working and what's not.
It's very beautifully said. And I understand like from like a marketing perspective, like why that's so useful for a brand. Like how would you say like that? What's the benefit to like the end user?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So
Well,
we are thank you so much. That was an unplanned tee up. That's beautiful. Um so in the realm of someone who is a very angry consumer, I'm a very reluctant and hack averse consumer. I don't want to give you my email. I don't want you to chase me. I definitely don't want you to text me. What's in it for the consumer is getting a straight line delivery with no ads, no algorithms, the content and the interaction that you want from a brand. This is not for everybody who's ever purchased from a brand. But if I like Patagonia more than average, I'm going to opt into their community and get value beyond the transaction. So all of these activations that I'm talking about, whether it's behind the scenes content, feedback, co-creation, UGC opportunities, all of these cool activations that brands can launch, they're drawing me closer without asking me to buy again and again and again. And I feel like I'm getting something out of it. But the big, big benefit is that if you think about the way Facebook in its very earliest days was sort of a pure connective tissue from one to many, I can have all the brands I care about in one place. Magnetic is a platform and a network so that I, as a consumer, only have to come to one space. I've opted into all the brands that I love, and I can interact with all of them from a single home base rather than downloading a bunch of different apps on my phone, going to a bunch of different websites, or trying to remember who's got a Substack and who's got a Patreon.
That's super helpful. I am also I'm a pretty loyal consumer, honestly. I do opt into a lot of things, but it gets exhausting and you get lost and you're like, I don't want to give away all this information every single time. Or you're right, download a single app. I'm curious, what was happening in your life or career when the idea for Magnetic was born? Like, was this out of this angry consumerism or?
Yes. So it was a few things. I was a lawyer. I was a corporate lawyer for almost 15 years. I worked in mergers and acquisitions and venture capital, heavily invested on the emerging tech basis of venture capital. So I was always working with and around tech companies. And right around 2016, sort of fell down the blockchain rabbit hole from a practitioner's perspective. I started learning a ton about the technology and I got really into blockchain as an architecture and an infrastructure. Use cases well beyond what most people think of when they think of like cryptocurrencies, right? We're talking infrastructure that serves the same way cloud storage might be the backbone of an entity. So learning about all of this, I started to dive a little deeper from the company building perspective in blockchain. And I was helping some of my legal clients far beyond their legal work, becoming an advisor and helping them with their blockchain strategies. And it was little by little that I sort of morphed into the space of a builder over an advisor. And around that time, we saw the height of the NFT boom, which was a lot of digital art-based communities making a play for not just an art collection, but bringing people together who cared about something, anything in particular, and building a community. And it was at that time I was working with my now co-founder, Tyler, at a project shop where we were helping NFT communities build sticky communities, right? But that at the time meant sending people to Discord to talk to each other, Twitter for updates, Shopify for merch, websites for, sort of the brochure of the overall overview of the project. You chase them via email. I mean, it was chaos. And we really started to understand very quickly why, when we handed this so-called community back to the founder, built up, launched, amplified, etc., it would almost inevitably die. And
Wow.
that's because it's so unwieldy to manage all of these different platforms, try to connect the dots, figure out, okay, if on at that time Twitter and the blockchain community are fairly inextricably linked, but you can use the same proxy for a DTC beauty brand who has Instagram or TikTok followers. Do you know that Angel Baby XOXO, who likes all of your posts, has never bought anything? Or do you know that Flash Player 92 never acknowledges your social presence, but has a religious monthly purchase with you? It's so hard to connect those dots and make those vanity metrics turn into something meaningful because it is in every siloed third-party platform's interest to own that data and keep it a secret, right? There's only so much
Right.
they'll give you, and they continue to extract at higher and higher costs. So you're getting this skeletal data that you can barely duct tape together to form a picture of what's resonating with people, what do they care about, and what do they want to see next. When it all sort of came together, Tyler and I said there's got to be a commercial solution for this. I mean, this is so unwieldy. This is chaos. And no wonder, with so much manual energy allocated, No solo founder or small team could ever take the keys back to this and keep it up and running. Spoiler alert, there was no such commercial solution. So we built one. We both quit our full-time jobs and went all in on starting to build Magnetic. It solved so many problems for us personally, our clients, and what we were seeing in the marketplace. This wasn't a blockchain issue. This is an everybody trying to beat an algorithm issue.
Yeah, this is a anyone building community issue. Like I
Yeah.
very early on in my software career, I was a community manager, and we had our forums. We also had Slack and Discord, and it's like, I can't remember the pseudonym you used, but if it was like if Angel Baby was on Discord, her name was definitely like Jill Smith on Slack. I don't know if that's the
Yes.
same woman, and
Right.
I would scrape these sites for, feature requests, what we're going to build next. And it's like, how do you decide like what the input is like actually valid or who's just the loudest people in these chat rooms?
That's
Like
exactly
to
right.
get that actual data, like, do people actually want this feature or is there just one person screaming very loudly
Screaming
about
about
this?
it. That's exactly right. And I think it's interesting too, because I think an underutilized social listening tool is Reddit. And if you go into certain communities, let it let's take the running community, for instance. I say this all the time. I think that we don't this is maybe segmentation and maybe something else, but we don't think enough about people as holistic beings. We reduce them to demographics and we say, suburban mother, mid 30s, young children, drives this type of car, right? We can make assumptions about lots of little pieces
Right.
and elements. That says nothing about who they are as a human being. And we lose a lot of nuance there. To go back to what I'm talking about with Reddit is listening to people discuss in sort of an independent and open forum is one way to start understanding that there's a frustration, right? And as you're saying, it may just be the loudest folks, but it is also an independent platform where they're sounding off because something really does mean that much to them. And maybe they'll find strangers across the universe who agree with them, or disagree, and there may be interesting discourse. But then if you combine that with an understanding of who these are as people, whether or not they are your target consumer, I would call that your muse, right? Any running company can go one of several ways, but here are two very basic ones. I am a long distance runner. However, I am a champagne at mile 20 long distance runner. I ran the Berlin Marathon and I chugged a stein of beer around mile 21 because I am not breaking tape. I am absolutely out there for the fun of it. I will take all of the snacks. New York City's marathon is always right after Halloween. People bring out their Halloween candy. I am thrilled for it all, right? That's one type of runner. And then
Right.
there's another type of runner that has all the gear, has a heart rate monitor, a Samsung, an Apple Watch. They've got something on each wrist. Maybe it's a Whoop, maybe there's an Aura. They are optimizing their fuel. They are having only electrolytes. They've got, really sick shoes, and they are a performance runner. Whether or not they are breaking tape doesn't matter, but that's their approach to running, right? They optimize every step. And to know whether or not your running brand, Bandit is a very, very sort of explosive running brand, and they've got run clubs here in New York. They do a whole lot of pop-ups, events, etc. For them to simply drill a little bit further, and I'm not saying Bandit hasn't, but this is an interesting thing is when you go to their run club, you have both sorts
Right.
of runners. But some brands are exclusively one side and some brands are exclusively the other. But if you're not taking the time to understand the holistic human who's purchasing your product, you are going to make a lot of missteps. You may go into metrics partnerships or hardware partnerships that make no sense because you've got a lot of casual runners. You've got the champagne runners, right? Who
Mm-hmm.
really love your product. And a few of them might buy it because they love you, but you're not optimizing here. Whereas, you might do really, really well with a pop up that is collaborating with a bagel truck because everybody in that kind of crew wants to and with a big fat bacon, egg, and cheese, not electrolytes and salts, right? Whatever it is, you're getting this sense that people are dimensional and starting to understand more about them through their habits, through their interactions, through letting them become a part of the process is not only efficient and effective, right? It reduces a lot of your overarching spend guessing and checking, but you also build emotional loyalty. And so when we feel part of the process of something, if I weighed in on a colorway of the next pair of bandit shorts, I am going to be first in line to buy them. Give me early access and I'm even happier. There are lots of those things that people kind of piecemeal do already, but they aren't translating into measurable outcomes. They're not translating into performance metrics that may let you know, 90% earlier in the journey that something's going to go well or something's not. And that is a huge benefit to starting to tie together those little individual data points. And as you said, it may just be one person screaming the loudest, or if you in fact invite people to give their opinion, but you've got a centralized place to do that where it doesn't take, scraping together data points from every channel where you see people sort of haphazardly commenting and posting. Chat rooms are notorious for this, right? It's like, okay, I pulled the data point, but did I ask the question? Did I give people a formatted answer track where I can start to use their data points and say, okay, fine, given 3 choices, 60% of people said they want this. Now we've got a lot more direction than the same one person every single day was banging the drum about this feature.
Right, right. Yeah, and this is just definitely like because I think when a lot of people or like when a lot of brands start with a community, they're just like, we'll just give them like a spot to congregate and talk
Oh,
about our
yeah.
product and share like, like this is how you use it. For example, like I'm in a few like new to wigs communities, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, how do you wear your wigs? Like, do you
Yeah.
wear like a wig cap? Like, what's the best brand? Should you go for human hair, or, like synthetic and like but then you're left like mostly alone in there. And this is just like where magnetic kind of takes it to the next step where like community, that's like where it turns into co-creation. And I feel like it's so interesting that you use the co-creation because I also come from like a customer research background. And so I haven't I hear this term a lot in the coaching space about like co-creating like an experience and like building it together
Okay.
in like a
Uh-huh.
container. And so I thought it's really cool that you're using co-creation in like the marketing brand space as well because it's the same thing. It's true. They're like coming together to build a solution with feedback.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, think about anybody who's got flavors, colors, right? You're guessing on the new flavors and many folks this is not just a nice to have, this is a numbers game of if you're in the food and beverage space where you've got minimums for lines of production in order to do a new color, a new flavor, a new shape of pasta, let's say whatever it is, right? You want some degree of certainty that that's going to sell out, that there's appetite for that specific thing before you do a full run of production, before you're left with dead stock or inventory that you cannot sell before a sell by date, right? All of these things are very tangible business initiatives that simple co creation can help along the lines of. What do you want to see? Oh, and then if you've got a cool little limited group of your VIPs, why don't you do a small batch, a tester batch, and let them try it? Have those be your consumer insights groups. Have them be your taste testers. Have them be your rugged camping gear testers. The way that REI Co-op operates, get them early access to the new gear and let them try it. Get their feedback before you do a full run. All of that falls under the guise of co-creation because it's just making them part of the process. Something you said I think is really interesting as what I would call sort of a default assumption across many, many brands where they sort of assume that if they open up a chat room, people will just do the work and tell them all the secrets, what they want. And, it's like, how much time do you think people have in a day to go participate in 72 Slack and Discord channels about their favorite socks? It's just not realistic. And so if you're not planting the seed, if you're not holding their hand every single day, which is also exhausting, and you're still assuming they will show up and be responsive, you actually end up doing yourself a disservice because largely you end up with crickets in there. And nothing is worse for the brand image than having an empty chat room. So we actually are of the mind that people have to earn chat. If you have an incredibly robust and engaged community, by all means, we will open up chat. But they've got to be there's got to be a value exchange that is
Okay.
measurable so that people are not just coming getting suckered into a place where you're going to have them do the work and say like, go forth and build my brand, right?
Right,
Make this
right.
a cool space for people to want to come. Why should they? What we want to see and what we want to encourage is this two-way exchange. That is very important. The value beyond the transaction is critical because people have infinite choice these days, right? Everything is a commodity. And if you are not delivering more than a decent product, they're going to fall off. They have infinite choice. And so the next time something catches them sideways that's easier or faster to order, happens to catch them at the right time in their algorithm on a social doom scroll, it doesn't matter. They will defect. And so, but if you are the one who is keeping them engaged by making them feel seen, feel heard, feel valued, that can be in very light touch ways. This does not have to be a colossal endeavor. But those little touches between their transactions are what is going to keep you front of mind for them so that when they need a new pair of socks, when they need another greens packet, when they need another creatine gummy, whatever the case may be, they will come back to you. And not only that, they will be telling their friends about it because they did something cool. They got access to early purchases or a pop-up event, or you used their UGC in your socials and tagged them. I mean, there are a million ways to do this. And when you do even the bare minimum beyond trying to annoy them into their next purchase, they will feel that effort.
Guess, do you often have conversations with like potential clients or clients like deciding whether they need a community or they just need like customer research? And like, do you help guide them that way?
We do. We have conversations about objectives, and it's very easy to tell right up front whether or not they want vibes or outcomes. And it's pretty easy to suss out, and we can direct them accordingly because I'll be honest, sometimes vibes works. If you have a really dedicated community already, if you've got your brand cult and you want to have a place where you can get a lot more interactive with them than any other platform is going to allow, and you don't want to send them all over the place, that's great. I don't need you to measure things if you don't want to. If you're just like, we have so much going on and it would be great for us to house it under one roof, beautiful. But a lot of times there's, I think, a little bit of a mix and match where people want, I'm sure you'll resonate with this, when people say to either social media managers or digital marketers, they just say like, I want this to go viral. Why? Do you know do you know what that means? Do you know what the outputs are? Do you know what the conversion looks like? So that post went viral and you got a million eyeballs on it, hundreds of thousands of likes, thousands of comments. Did it drive sales? Probably not.
Probably
And
not.
even if it did, right? Even if it did, are those buyers, you hooked them once. Now what? Now, what are you going to do with them? How are you going to keep them warm? How are you going to keep them around? How are you going to get them to feel emotionally invested to not only stick around, but to share the good word? We all know that word of mouth marketing still reigns supreme, right? So
Right.
give them something to talk about. Give them anything beyond a decent product because decent products are a dime a dozen.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's so true. Um, I guess kind of going back to co-creation and giving your customers the ability to have their voice in like in the determining like product updates or features, like
Yeah.
how do you prevent community from becoming performative?
Oh, yeah. Oh, people can smell that a mile away. They're just like, that's the empty chat room. That's where it's crickets. And you're just like, what am I doing here? You wanted air quotes community, which is one of the words that has lost the most meaning in the last 5 years, right?
Yeah.
We all know that empty chat room vibe.
Opt into
And
this
that is a
exclusive
performative.
environment
Oh, yeah.
where nothing happens.
And you
Yeah.
get nothing. Maybe we give you points for sharing, right? Like, go be our on the ground influencers, and we will give you points that mean nothing, that you can never use, or you need hundreds of thousands of them to get, one free carrot. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
post a story, get a point. Yeah, you're like,
Yep.
how do I redeem these points? When, where, how,
That's
why?
right.
Like, I guess
That's
that's
right.
like
And
a
then
good.
whose job is it to go track that down and see, did they go post that story? Is that their username versus, right?
Right, right. I guess that's a good segue for like, how do like brands typically mess up co-creation?
Ooh, I am of the firm opinion that there's no bad co-creation. I
Okay.
think I think not doing it is the sin, or not trying. But every type of brand or musician, performance group, SaaS product, everybody has an opportunity to co-create. That means different things. And so would I recommend, a 12-question poll for a musician? I don't know. Maybe we're talking about which song should be first on the set list. And then it makes total sense, right?
Right.
But there are ways to engage that can be super unique and creative. I think co-creation, a catch-all for involving people in your process, whether that means prioritizing software features, whether that means picking the first song on a set list for a concert, whether that means posing with a product at your dinner table, whether that means dressing up an olive oil bottle like a Christmas tree and submitting funny characters. It doesn't matter. I think not doing it is the mistake. But as far as doing it wrong, I don't really think you can. I'm sure there are, there are some ways that are better
Yeah.
than others. But I'm going to go hard on the no co-creation is the only bad co-creation.
Yeah. No, I love when like questions are kind of wrong like that. You know what I mean? It like opens up this like dialogue. Like you're like, actually,
Yeah.
remind me. So magnetic, would you say it's exclusively for like D2C brands or like can creators use it? Like
Oh,
what,
creators
like,
can absolutely. Yeah. Anybody can use it, which is a horrible thing to say. I am a big proponent of, if you're for everyone, you're for no one.
right.
But here's how I'll describe it. Rather than industry or sector focused, it's not a vertical division of this is best for these folks and not those. Instead of that, I call it a horizontal decision where across every single one of those industries, are you interested in investing in the relationship with your consumer, or are you not? If you are not, we are not for you. If you want another tactic, another hack, another way to, Trojan horse your way into their text messages, their emails, we're not for you. If you are aware and convinced that investing in the relationship decreases CAC, builds an organic army, increases LTV, all of those positive outcomes. If you believe that investment in the relationship correlates to those outcomes, as it quite literally mathematically does, but I'm not going to be the one to convince you of that, then we're for you, because you can use this tool set like Canva. We are a tool set, we are a platform, we are an architecture that allows you to play within the bounds. We give you the tools, you make the magic. And so it is for quite literally everybody. I will say DTC is quite perfect because we have a Shopify integration. We are a Shopify channel partner, so it's very easy to pull your storefront in. And I know a lot of DTC brands are looking for attribution from what I would call the last meaningful touch.
Mm-hmm.
We are building a metric called the last meaningful touch that allows you to understand, what are most people doing immediately before they buy? Did they watch a piece of content? Did they engage in a poll? Did they just score some free merch? Did you incentivize them to complete a social share? Did you have them upload UGC and now they feel like they see themselves in the brand? Whatever it is, and that will differ for everyone, but you want to see sort of what was the last thing they did before they purchased. That's a really helpful metric for D2C brands. So we're great for them, but this goes, like I said, if you're an entertainer, if you're a musician, if you're a SaaS product, if you are a creator, you're an educator, all of these dimensional attributes of just going beyond delivering content.
Mhm. Sorry for the interruption. We had a little bit of technical difficulties at this portion of the interview and the call dropped off. So if it's a little choppy, that's why. Thanks for listening.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess like to sort of wrap things up, what I'm thinking about is like in 2026, when we think about community, like what are the minimum requirements now? Like it's not simply just a
ooh,
chat room these days. Like what do you need for it to be like a robust community that's like engaging beyond just, yeah, a chat?
what does it take to build a cult?
Yes, exactly. What does it take?
I mean,
What's the formula for building a cult?
I think that that is at this point in our lexicon, I think that's often what people mean. And again, cult has its own connotations, but like, in 2026, what we mean when we say that. What they mean is they want a devoted, dedicated, engaged community. And in order to do that, you need to make people feel seen, validated, heard, and connect with them. That's why I think co-creation honestly takes on a lot of those. That participatory nature is incredible and people underestimate constantly. I think they underestimate the impact it has and they overestimate the effort required
Mm-hmm.
to do it. It's not that hard, especially with tools. I mean, shameless plug, right? But it really is not that difficult to get people to feel involved. And to me, that's where community starts and ends. Is are people involved or did you just collect a passive audience into a place, count them as little numbers and call it a day? That in and of itself is just as bad a vanity metric as leveraging strategy through likes, comments, and shares. It's not
Right.
converting. It's not completing the objective. The minute you have even a small thread of an emotional bond that feels like it goes two ways, you have a community. And those two ways can either be with a person and the brand or a participant and another participant. There are many ways to skin the proverbial cat. It is just got to be interactive. And if you just have a horde of numbers of passive audience members, I don't care how many followers you have, that's not a community. I don't care how many people are on your email list, that's not a community. Your CRM impresses me none, right? These are not communities. And I think at this point, people know that. So now the next step is great. How do you get there? Involve them. Involve them. And I don't mean engagement on the vanity metrics scale of likes, comments, shares. I mean, make them part of your strategy. And you can do that a million ways to Sunday. But the minute you start doing that and people respond to it, you're doing something authentic and interesting to them. The minute they start responding, you're building a community. You're
Yeah.
building a cult.
And like that answered like my biggest question between like what is co-creation and like what is customer research? Like co-creation is for community, customer research is just scraping data for your customers. Like
Scraping. That's right.
you're
That's
just
right.
you may incentivize it, but there's no relationship building there. And then
That's exactly right.
you're making decisions based on like, scraped incentivized data plus some vanity metrics. Whereas if you're
Yep.
co-creating with your community, you're getting their direct input, they're motivated and engaged and I wasn't going to say incentivized, but they want
They're
to
inspired to
they're
do it.
inspired
Yeah.
to
Yes.
participate.
That's exactly right. It's voluntary. We call that zero party data. Data that people give you voluntarily. It's not even first party data. It's now been reduced to sort of filter even further, but zero party data is given willingly.
Right.
And people will do that when they feel like they're getting something out of it. And when I talk about the tactics of scraping, of vanity metrics, of better, kind of playing the cookie game, I just say you've just become a better stalker. And people don't want to be stalked, even if it means that you've served up something that I might like. I'm creeped out because you were stalking me, right? We all know the feeling of talking about something within the proximity of an iPhone, and all of a sudden you have an ad for it when you open Instagram 2 days later. It's crazy and it feels weird. So even if they were right, it feels icky. And so when we shift the paradigm to inviting people in and encouraging them to be who they are and offer their opinions, knowing that they will be heard, you are light years ahead. I don't care how good your stalking tactics are, it's never going to feel the same as honest validation. And
Right.
making people part of the process, inviting them on, is honest validation.
Do you also think that like maybe co-creation is less of a heavy lift than also like pure customer research? Because I'm thinking of like
Yes.
all of the 30-minute to hour long sessions I've had with customers. Like, I'll give you a $50 gift card. I'm going to send you
yeah.
a survey and I'm going to do a one-on-one interview with you. And I'm like, anyone will just sit down with you they don't really care about the product. They're like, yeah, your product's great. Yes, I would pay $1 million for your software. Like, thank you for the $50. Like,
Thank you so much for that, because one anecdote I use often is I had a girlfriend who worked for a long time at Pepperidge Farm. And it used to astonish me how much they would spend on consumer research, bringing suburban moms into a conference room, paying them $40 to taste some products, which I always said, I mean, bring me right on in. I will do
yeah.
this for free. But the thing is, you don't even know if just because they fit your demographic doesn't mean they actually fit your psychographic, doesn't mean they buy the product, doesn't mean they care. Just because they were a suburban mom in southwestern Connecticut and happened to fit the bill on what you think is making the purchases at the grocery store does not mean those are the people who are going to give you the best feedback. And I will take that one step further in not just letting the people who've self-identified and come into, let's say, a Pepperidge Farm magnetic community or a goldfish aficionados. That would be great. Aficionados.
Aficionados.
Guys, that would be your new community. Pepperidge Farm, call me.
Trademark it immediately.
That's right. And so, but not only have they already said, they've raised their hand and said, I love this product, or like, I care enough to be part of a community about this product, and I kind of want to get the bells and whistles. I want to get a little more involved. I want to be a taste tester or whatever. Not only are you getting their invested opinion, their feedback is going to be more thorough and robust. That's fine. That's great. But what you've really done is built an emotional bond with them, because if I was the tester on a new flavor that's about to come out and I got it early, it was mailed to me, I got to give my feedback. Maybe I did a little video review. Maybe I didn't. Who cares? Maybe I answered polls. It doesn't matter. I am now invested in the success of that flavor. I'm going to tell people about it. I'm going to share that I was one of the early testers. I'm going to post about it, whatever it is. This is the reason people do equity incentives. This is the reason people defend to the death. They own one share of Apple and they think they're Steve Jobs, right? And they're going to buy Apple products for the rest of their life. Like, you can't tell me there's no psychological phenomenon that aligns with this theory, right? And so it doesn't take that much. You could own a fraction of a share, a tiny shred of a company, and the way that you will hustle for that company, whether you're an employee, or just a stockholder, there is a mental shift. You want to see it do well, and you will do things quite naturally that are within your power to encourage its success. And that can be just as important to something as seemingly silly as goldfish. You have people who are going to talk about it, who are excited about it, and they become the grassroots micro influencers that you never had to pay for. Nobody trusts influencers anymore because they know the influencer themselves is the brand after a certain point. The reason micro influencers became so important is because they still had a layer of trust that was higher than the rest, right? Once you pass a certain threshold, we assume you're out for you, and whatever you're selling is something you're getting paid for.
I want those commissions.
Just give it to the people who love you, get their feedback, and it's going to be more honest, more thoughtful. And then they're going to really beat the drum for you because they feel invested. That's their sweat equity.
Yeah, yeah. And it's less of a heavy lift because you're, like, collecting it, like, on a recurring basis, like, in smaller doses as opposed to
Right.
and you're actually capturing the right audience because you can tell that they're super engaged as opposed to, like, seeking
Exactly.
them out. Yeah, I'm really glad that we spent a little bit more time in this space. I was like, "There's something
Yeah.
here." I was like, "I'm loving co-creation," and I was like, "But there's" and I'm thinking about just, like, how communities evolved over the last couple years and how it's such a
Yeah.
buzzword, and they're like, "Oh, I've got, like, a chat room," and then you've got, like and I was also just kind of thinking of customer research as, like, a separate field, as it is. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, co-creation is, like, where customer research meets community.
Bingo. I mean, it's just, you're also hitting on a really important point when you talk about it being more frequent and in smaller doses. How easy is that? Because you were going to do it anyway. How easy is that to be the premise of your community? Be our taste testers, right? That's actually a no-brainer, and it gives you constant material. You're not constantly thinking about, like, oh gosh, what should I do with my community next? What do I need to feed them? Do I have to keep doing activations over and over? All you have to do is make it your taste testing platform, and you will see swaths of people flood in, and you will keep them happy by that alone. Now, a million
Just give them a
ideas
job,
sprout
give
off
them
the
a
sides of
role. They're
that.
like, "I love your product, like, how do I get involved?"
That's it.
And you're like and now
That's
they have this sense
exactly
of
right.
ownership and, like,
Bingo.
they wanna do good by yeah, no, it's yeah.
Yes. That's their equity. I mean, let them in, give them a piece of the pie, and it doesn't have to cost you much, right? This is stuff you were going to do anyway. You need to do consumer insights, you need to do customer research, you need to engage with people anyway. So instead of going through third-party channels or using insights experts, right, who aren't even in your company or your community, why would you put them through a third pipeline
Right.
and then get these stodgy analytics reports that you're like, I don't know, I might not have asked that question, or I might have had this other follow-up question for these folks, or whatever it is. You can strip out so much of the bureaucracy and get face to face with your consumer. And this is intimacy at scale because we are always asking, what is it that you're trying to do? All you're really trying to do is ask the damn question. But
Right.
it has been made nigh impossible to do so on a one-to-many basis. It's simply administratively burdensome to go and try to check in with everybody, get a couple of minutes on their calendar, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, doesn't matter, right? Like, that's so laborious, nobody does it. It's no wonder we don't simply ask the question. When we say, why did that flavor flop? Because you just didn't ask if people wanted it. But it has historically been quite difficult to do that at scale. You don't know if you're
Absolutely.
getting the right people answering. And when you incentivize it, is it because they just wanted the $5, right? Like, this cuts out all of the middlemen and brings people to the table and says, do you like this? Yes or no? Do you want this? Yes or no? If no, what would you prefer? I mean, we are getting to the point a lot faster, and it works for both sides. I now feel seen. I feel like my opinion is valued, and you have just saved a shitload of time and money.
Yeah. I think, yeah, this concept of co-creation is just going to blow up. And this has been such a juicy conversation. As we wrap up this afternoon, what's the best way for people to follow you, get a hold of you, learn more about Magnetic?
We are magnetic.xyz, and magnetic is with a Q. What we are doing right now is a very cool first quarter push where we are involving a creative studio. And folks can have a 60-day package with us where we work hand in hand. It's a white glove experience where we identify some of your biggest initiatives, your most exciting objectives, and we help you tailor the program and execute it. We're very hands-on, and we're running a limited 15 spots for this quarter. We do a full roadmap strategy session and then do the execution so that you can just kind of get your feet wet, see the outputs, see the analytics, start to see the results very, very quickly, and then turn the keys back over to you after the 60 days is up and you've seen all the beauty that comes out of it. So that's our founding 15 is open. We've got a couple slots left. We've had so many conversations where people are like, this is amazing. I need this. I want this. Where do I start?
Wow, that sounds like a super cool opportunity. And like I can just tell, like, as I kind of been digging into Magnetic myself, I'm like, okay, this is like definitely where community is going. Like it's meeting all of the requirements you need then to have to actually have like an engaged repeat buying community where they're more than customers or they're raving fans, you know? This is how you
That's
build
right.
it. So,
That's right. Exactly.
oh my God, I appreciate your time so much.
Thank you.
Um
This was so fun.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I will add all of that information to the show notes and yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you. This is amazing. You're a phenomenal.
If this conversation lit something up in you, this is your sign. Share the episode, start the conversation, build the thing. And if you're creating community, hosting gatherings, or building spaces people actually care about, I want to meet you. I'm Megan Lycan, and this is Hot Girls Build Cults.